Okay, so this will be Quideo 4. The basic question of Quideo 4 reads, the Census Bureau reports that the households spend an average of 31% of their total spending on housing. A home builders association in Cleveland believes that this average is lower in their area. They interview a sample of 40 households in the Cleveland metropolitan area to learn what percent their spending goes toward housing. Take mu to be the mean percent of spending devoted to housing among all Cleveland households. We want to test the hypotheses. So we have the ho, mu equals 31%, and the ha, mu is less than 31%. And then we have our population standard deviation is 9.6%. So question A of the basic question asks, what is the sampling distribution of the mean percent x bar that the sample spends on housing if the null hypothesis is true? Sketch the density curve of the sampling distribution. So, right here, we have our basic equation findings. So first thing we need to see is that the graph will be normal. So to test to see if it's normal, we need to see if it is big enough. And both QP and NP were greater than or equal to 10. So we took 0.31 times 40 equals 12.4. Obviously that's greater than 10. And then QP 0.69 times 40 equals 27.6, which is greater than 10. So, obviously, if we're assuming the null hypothesis is true, 31 is our mean and our standard. And to find our standard deviation, we must take 9.6, which was the population standard deviation as stated, and divide that by root 40 because of the 40 households in the Cleveland metropolitan area. So 9.6 divided by root 40 equals 1.52. So here we have our standard deviation of 1.52 going down to 29.4, then 27.96 and 26.44, and going up from 31 to 32.52, 34.04, and 36.56. So that is our normal density curve right there with a mean of 31. To find, okay, so moving on to part B. Suppose that the study X finds 30.2% for the 40 households in the sample. Mark this point on the axis of your sketch, then suppose that the study result is X bar equals 27.6. Mark this point on your sketch. Referring to your sketch, explain this in simple language why one result is good evidence that average in Cleveland spending housing is less than 31%, whereas other result is not. So for part B, the graph shows that there is a reasonable amount of sample values that will be below 30.2%, even if the null hypothesis is 31%. This means that while it may not be likely for 31% to occur, that could happen, it could still happen. So here we have 30.2 shown on the graph right here. And then right here, we're going to mark 27.6. A little harder to see because of the shading in that we'll do for question C. So there's still a good amount of values below 30.2 on the graph, as you can see. It's less than one standard deviation, so it will probably most likely have a ton of values below it. But because 27.6 is more than 2 standard deviations below the mean, it is unlikely that there are a good amount of values below it. So that hypothesis is likely untrue, meaning it's highly unlikely that it is true. And then for part C, we are to shade the area under the curve that gives the p-value result for x bar equaling 30.2. So shade it over from 30.2. Right here we have our 30.2 and below values. So if that was the mean value, that would be where the bell curve's normal distribution would start to the left.